I set out to take the SM58 and make it look and sound like an SM7b, but on a budget. And this is what I ended up with. A 3D printed housing that perfectly fits the SM58.
It did what? No. This doesn't work. Just the internet right now needs to stop with this crazy bullshit about trying to mod SM58s or SM57s into an SM7b. It can't be done. I'm going to show you why this can't be done. And if you understand how these microphones work, you would understand that this is actually impossible. I want to start this video by prefacing it with, I have watched Caleb Pike's videos previously in the past when I was learning about how to use cameras and how to get started on YouTube and all this sort of stuff. And I found Caleb's videos so invaluable, so invaluable. But what I don't appreciate from this video in particular is the spreading of misinformation that you can take a cheap microphone, such as the Behringer microphone he puts on display here, or the SM58, and by putting it in a different housing in some dodgy fashion, you're then going to create an SM7B. So what I'm going to point you to is this video here by Shure Microphones.
So there's a resonance frequency to the dynamic microphone coil and diaphragm assembly that we're going to want to basically damp down and make it a little, make it flatter than it is. The resonant frequency of a diaphragm on a 57 or 50, it's actually pretty low, like in the 100 hertz area.
Oh, interesting.
And that would mean there'd be a big bump in the response that we would want to kind of tame. So we need to damp that down, and we do that through a couple ways, but the biggest way is doing it through creating a cavity behind the microphone.
Okay.
So we create air volume behind the microphone.
So looking at our 57, all of this air in here, this is actually contributes to the frequency response of the microphone, is that correct?
Absolutely. When you screw the handle of a 57 together, that volume of air is part of the tuning process. The volume of air all through here, inside of the shock mount, which we'll get into, is all part of that damping process of getting that proper low-end response of the microphone.
What you should note is what they talked about first there is that the air gap behind the microphone is actually integral to the boost or lack thereof in the low frequencies around 100 hertz that's inherent in any of these capsules designed by Shure. So what a lot of these people online are saying, the reason why you can make a SM58 sound like a SM7b or an SM57 or whatever, the reason why they're saying that is because theoretically they all use the same plastic diaphragm, like the Mylar capsule diaphragm on all of these microphones. And that's true, they do all use basically the same diaphragm. However, the way that that is tuned on each of these microphones is inherently different. And it's because of the way the body is shaped, the way the air gap is behind the microphone itself, and a bunch of other things that we'll look at in a sec. That is what makes these microphones have their low frequency response. And if you just put a backing here on the back of this microphone, it doesn't fucking do anything. This microphone is still in its own original body with that same air gap in there, and it's going to still have its same low frequency attenuation. If that would work, you could just theoretically put this fucking, like, take a 58 and put it in a cup. Absolutely ludicrous and nonsense. And I just wish people would stop doing this shit.
Side by side, you can see the dimensions of this microphone are identical to the SM7B, and more importantly, the dimensions of the capsule distance to the front of the grill matches perfectly.
All right, so we've matched the distance, okay, from one microphone diaphragm to the other microphone diaphragm in that housing. That's what he's explaining he's done there. Now, this actually creates another problem.
Yeah, we don't just, create different potting heights or whatever.
Right.
It's all specifically tuned to certain values. Every chamber of air in here is tuned to a specific value and a specific volume to get the proper response.
This microphone here has a much lower impedance and output, so you get a lot less signal output from the SM7B than you do an SM58. But what that means is if Caleb, like in this video, is putting two microphones the same distance apart, but then they have a different impedance and one needs more gain, what that means is you're going to drive the mic preamp differently for one microphone than the other, and the impedance mismatching and stuff of the microphones, and then your placement in relation to that on the diaphragm is going to create a different frequency response on that microphone. So just because you've placed them similarly from the person's voice completely negates some of the other features of this microphone and how it works and how that contributes to its overall sound.
It's a handheld dynamic microphone into an SM7b. And I know what you're thinking. This is just a cosmetic fake mod to a lame microphone, but you're wrong, and here's why.
No. No. It is just a cosmetic change.
And what about, I guess, what you would call the head basket or the...
Yep. We would call that the resonator cap.
Okay.
And that helps us get more high-end response, more detail out of the microphone. And the more air you have above there, or the bigger holes you have, create a lower frequency, or the smaller the air volume, or the smaller the holes in the resonator cap, create a higher frequency peak.
Interesting.
So that's used to help extend the response of the microphone too.
It is completely a cosmetic change. The only thing that is making a difference to the sound of Caleb's SM58 is that he's taking the head basket off the 58 and then putting it inside a new body with the plasticky thing that his head basket he's putting over it. That is going to change the sound of the 58, okay? But it is not going to make it sound like an SM7b, okay? This microphone has a very different frequency response, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So this is the website I was telling you about, recordinghacks.com, made by Matt McGlynn, one of the best resources online to learn about these microphones. We can see here the frequency response of the SM7b. If you know this microphone, it has a mid-frequency boost. That's that dotted line there, what happens when you use that. And then this dotted line here is what happens when you engage the low frequency roll off. So what we have here is the SM58 in orange and the SM7b in purple. And if you have a look at a couple of things, you can see that these microphones are inherently quite different. And that's because of the things that Shaw is saying about how this microphone works. If you look here at the low frequency response, the 58 has a bit more pronounced low frequency around 200 hertz there, and then rolls off earlier than the 7B, where the 7B has a bit more extended low frequency. So that's to do with what they're saying, that tuning of the capsule is inherent because of their design. And if you just stick the SM58 inside a body like resembling a 7B, that's not going to change this. It's not going to extend the low frequencies. It's going to stay the same.
And I know what you're thinking.
So if we have a look there, as he takes that off, that head basket, by just taking the head basket off, you've got a different cap here. And that cap on the SM58 actually has a bit of foam. And that foam and that design of cap there changes the high and high mid frequency response of this microphone. It is so ludicrous to think that none of this matters and that you can even get close to what these microphones sound like. Here we have the true SM7B and its capsule, and we can see that the rear of this microphone is completely open. You can see the shock mount, it's open until it sits in this basket here. So this basket here is tuned for the low end response, okay, of that 7B, so that's what gives it that extended low frequency. But this open design here and the different actual cap there and the lack of foam on the front of the diaphragm here changes the frequency response, okay? They've got a completely different resonator cap there, okay? And there is nothing, there's no grill, there's a different type of design here to let air in behind the microphone, and that changes the frequency response as well. So if you try and like just shove a 58 into a body that resembles an SM7B, will it get you a different sound? Well, almost definitely it'll make the SM58 sound different, but it's not going to sound like the SM7B ever. So I just wanted to make this video to clear this shit up, because you can't cheat physics, okay? The way all of these microphones work is to do with physics and the design, and there are clever people at companies like Shaw, and they bust their asses to make amazing quality microphones, and they've put a lot of thought into the design, into creating mics for different purposes. So the 7B has its purpose and what it's good at, and if you want to use this microphone and achieve those results using it for what it's designed for, then get one. Get a 7B. Just buy the 7B. If that's the tool that you need for your job, buy that tool instead of stuffing around and trying to mod tools to make them do something they're not designed to do. Because the 58 and the 57 are great microphones. You don't need to mod them. Just use them what they're created for. The 58 is an amazing live microphone for vocals. It's even been used in the studio. Bono from U2 famously used the SM58 just straight into obviously good mic preamps and good outboard gear, but still a 58. If that's the sound you want on a record, fucking use the 58, all right? Like, Jesus. Zach De La Rocca, once again, on the Rage Against the Machine records, reportedly used an SM58. So if you want the sound of those records, use the SM58. If you want the sound of other records, get a 7B, okay? Or if you're trying to use a 7B for podcasting or whatever, get a 7B, okay? Don't stuff around trying to mod microphones, guys. Like that, it's just a waste of time and energy. And if you want a particular sound, save up some money, go buy that bit of gear. I hope you got something valuable out of this video, because I just want to make sure that no one is believing the bullshit and the spin and the misconceptions that some people put out there on the internet. Once again, no offense to Caleb Pike, okay? He makes great content, but that video is just fucking garbage, man. Don't believe that shit, okay? It's nonsense. It's not how this gear works. So if you want to hear more truth about the way audio gear works, please hit subscribe, hit like down below. I'm Mitch from the DIYrecordingstudio.com. I'll catch you soon.